Hello and welcome to the Purpose Cycle podcast, the podcast that gives you impactful practices to build towards fruition and fulfillment. Here's a taste of what we've got in store for you today.
When you're giving, some people don't like, why are you giving that away? Why are you doing this for people? They don't realise what it actually does for you internally. I don't knock anyone. You know, I don't get involved in anything else. I think you've really got to be yourself, but focus on what your strengths are. And, you know, obviously, yeah, that's just worked for me. And that's the biggest bit of advice I could give anyone, John. Like, be yourself. I know it's difficult, but you know yourself. When we all went into lockdown, everybody reevaluated everything. You know, all this materialism and stuff disappeared, and the core fundamentals of life became became everything. You know, family, fitness. You know, happiness. You can't go on holiday. You can't cover up. You can't cover up anxiety and depression with a holiday anymore.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the latest episode of the Purpose Cycle podcast. My guest today is renowned around the city of Hull and beyond as a DJ and producer, with a following of up to 40,000 people on Instagram. He has built an empire of multiple revenue streams over the years due to his intuition for an idea and a willingness to take the plunge. On top of his self-made success story, he has had to endure many ups and downs and obstacles along the way, and his experiences are proving to be extremely inspiring to others, and coupled with his role as a mental health ambassador, he is breaking the stigma by showing us all that it is okay to talk. Please welcome today, Ben Rainey. How are you doing, Ben?
How much do I owe you for that intro for a start? That was phenomenal. I was smiling myself. I was like, bloody hell, it's got it all wrong.
Well,
I'm good, thanks, Matt.
Good stuff. Yeah, I've been trying to build a good intro.
I was like that. Hairs on my neck.
Taken aback a bit as well. Yeah, great to have you on. Thank you very much for agreeing to do the podcast today. Been having some some really good guests on, and I feel like there's some real impact there. So it's been really exciting to watch your progress over the years, and thinking there's a real story to tell here, and hopefully we can bring some impact to the listeners today as well. Do you want to just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
I can't trump what you've just said because, well, I'll tell you the truth. He's Jonathan's glorified me, and I'll tell you the actual truth. I'm a failed footballer / rugby player that decided to try something else. Just DJing was kind of like one of them happy accidents, really, for me. It was like teenage years. I was going to parties. I'm not a massive drinker. I'm not into anything else. Like, I want a party animal, but I kind of knew I had a place there because of my personality. And it was a case of, what can I do to get in there and just be me, and finding myself, I guess, because I always felt a bit lost in a party, because I want the kid with a bottle of Jaeger handing it round. I want the kid with anything more than just drink. I just wasn't the party guy. And I loved the music, and it was always a case of getting past the iPod, you know, the old iPod shuffles and whatnot. I used to get past the aux cable, you know, the little cable that you plugged in. And it just started like that when I was about 16, 17. I used to spend hours finding music just to impress people on a weekend. But I'm not talking like trying to impress people as in, you know, on social media. None of that really was the thing at the time. I was on it, but it was just to impress my mates. It was like a genuine thing. Like, I wanted my friends to turn around at the party and be like, yes. And it just, very quickly, I just thought to myself, how can I mix these two tracks together rather than pressing shuffle or, you know, playing? Yeah, it just kind of started like as a bit of a joke. I was still playing rugby and football. Which we'll probably get into, but that definitely helped having a good cult following, because I knew a lot of people from that. And at first, everyone's kind of like, oh, Rainey's trying to DJ, what's going on? Then I did a few house parties and I was a bit shaky. And then I got a couple of like gigs here and there. And then people start kind of taking you a bit more serious all of a sudden. And then before you know it, mate, I'm sat here and I've gone a long way, really. When I think you don't really think about it until you sit down with someone. That's kind of glad I chatted to you about it, because you don't really look at how much you are doing, because we're all living in our own little bubbles and just flying along and doing what we're doing. You don't really absorb how much you're actually doing until someone sits down and says, so what do you do?
Yeah, I know exactly. I was saying this to Josh last week, because I've sort of had you both, obviously, knowing you from school and things. And seeing the journey from a personal Instagram and it build into a business Instagram. Only really outsiders can probably see that journey. And yourselves, you're too busy, you know, to look back, really. I was saying this to my dad the other day. We when we did peaks, and you're climbing up the mountain, and some people are looking up and how far they've got to go, but you very rarely stop, look around, and say how far you've come. So it'd be good to reflect and look at the different obstacles along the way.
Yeah.
So in terms of then an aspiration, what was you said about passing the aux cable and wanting to impress your mates? Were there any sort of external triggers that made you think this could be a career? Did you see anyone who was a little bit more, I don't know, successful, famous on Instagram or on TV and think that's a decent lifestyle, I'd like that?
Yeah, it's a good question, really. I think it's kind of mad because I think we all know, and I'm so proud of being from Hull, and I love being from Hull, but I think we are always kind of behind the curve. So, like, without no disrespect to anyone that's flying the flag, because I'm a massive, ambassador of Hull, big Hull FC fan, Hull City, and the rest of it. But I think, especially with music, like I've found over the years, like it'll happen in Leeds and then it'll happen in Hull. And I think when I first started DJing, I wasn't in the know too much with anyone in particular that was, I want to be that guy. Obviously there was generations before me, not to disregard anyone at all. There was loads of people doing it, but like, I guess in our era where we're kind of coming through with social media, I didn't know anyone, I didn't know anyone that was, kind of doing what I was going to go on to do. Until you get into it, and then you find people, you're looking further afield, aren't you? And you start finding people. And then I started finding people. I did find that I thought everyone was older than me, which is quite mad because now I feel like everyone's younger than me and I'm trying to keep up with them. Like it's all turned around in a few years. Like I was the young kid on the block, full of energy, and everyone was like, "This kid's mad. Like, where's he come from?" kind of thing. And then now I'm like I say, I'm kind of like mentoring a few young DJs, and it's mad how quick it's changed from me being the rookie to not the veteran, but someone that can actually help people. And I think to myself, why do they listen to what I've got to say? I'm not a teacher, but it's a good feeling because I've done a lot in like 5 years, I think it is. So there wasn't really anyone in particular, but obviously you've got your usual big DJ role models. But I can't honestly say to anyone off the top of my head. I kind of took a bit of everyone and just was like, I'll take a bit of that, and then drew from my own personality and family. I guess really, I just built my own kind of style with everything.
Okay, yeah. And in terms of then an inspiration, so like an internal trigger, then what was you said about making your friends proud, but I've seen on a lot of your streams you're trying to build up spirits, make people positive, make people happy. Is that sort of something that drove you forward as well?
Yeah. Obviously like mental health style kind of thing. I've always just been one to put myself forward to I've always just been like a bit of a joker, and I think it's mad because what some people don't get it, but like when you're giving, some people don't like, why are you giving that away? Why are you doing this for people? They don't realize what it actually does for you internally. Like yourself as like teaching people and helping people grow and develop. It's a feeling that you can't really describe when you've helped someone else. Like you're healing your own heart by helping someone else, if that makes sense. Like, so for me, it's always been a case of just trying to, when I get nice feedback and good comments and people saying that they're enjoying what I'm doing, it's like, you don't realize what that does for me inside. I don't really gloat about it. I don't really tell everyone, like some of the messages I get are crazy, mate. Honestly, like people especially in lockdown, been like saying how I've lifted them out of dark places and things like this, and you've been what's kept us going, and I'm just doing what I enjoy doing. But it's so humbling to know that helps people. But what it does internally and what my actual motive, it helps me heal myself, and it's my kind of therapy by doing that. Like you're doing something for someone else, but non-selfishly it's helping me, and that's such a strong kind of position to be in. I'm so lucky to be able to not just help other people, but help myself in the process. And it's just like, it's just a great feeling, mate. It's kind of like something that money couldn't really buy, because it's like I said, there's no real money in it at the minute. So
no,
it's purely love.
Yeah, they say that the kindness pays dividends over time. So it does. People don't realize that the first step, is you have to go out of your way really to help somebody, but then over time it just becomes effortless. And it's really inspiring to see some of the live streams and stuff. Myself and my partner Sarah, we've been playing them and enjoying them whilst in lockdowns as well. So, and it seems as well, a lot of your music's pretty sort of timeless. It's not all like have to be brand new. You use a lot of throwbacks as well.
Yeah, that's the golden tip, I think. If there is any like aspiring DJs watching, like I think it's all good and well playing the new cool music and breaking it, but the classics will never fail. And it's what I'm into. Like I don't really listen to chart music, so I'm more into like your soul and funk and Motown. And there's that many remixes about. Like I said, I've been a hunter for years. I've always built the collection, and I found a bit of a niche by playing the old stuff because you're pleasing the kids love it, the young kids love it, but obviously you're pleasing mums and dads are loving it. Our age group are loving it because we grew up on it, and it's just such a good, diverse audience you can build by doing that. And it's found my little niche there, really.
Yeah. So let's take it right back then to when you were DJing at house parties and you were just about getting yourself started, and probably buying yourself your first, set of decks and things like that.
Yeah.
Were there any sort of obstacles along the way? I try and break it down in the book. I talk about a realization and 4 different stages. So there was realization of yourself, and so do I have the drive to do things? Do I have any personal obstacles to overcome? Or a realization of others? Do you have the circle around you that will encourage you and inspire you and support you? Or was it maybe an environmental realization of, do I have the money to set myself up, or do I have the current circumstances to do so? And finally, a task orientated. So can I actually do the task? It seems like to me that you were pretty good at that, picking the music and delivering. So was there any of the other 3 strands, environment, others, or yourself, that you had to work on in order to develop?
Yeah, massively, mate. It's a good question. It takes me back to a place I haven't been for a long time, really, because like you say, I think everyone sees the end product. Like, for example, now the live streams and the followers and the gigs that I was doing and the status that I guess you get with it and all the rest of it. But the struggle was huge, mate. And to be honest, it still is. Obviously, my industry's probably get into COVID, but my industry's gone for now. But going back to the beginning, it was the biggest task I had was proving to people I could make it a job. Not necessarily my family, to be honest, because my family, they're great and they're into the music probably more than me, and that's what's pushed me on. But it is, like I said, it wasn't so common to be I'm not saying it wasn't common because it was only 5 years ago, but like I couldn't name an example of anyone in our area around the same age as me that just decided to become a DJ and made it the full-time job. Obviously, there is people doing it, but it wasn't as kind of normalized to be a DJ. I don't know how to describe it because I don't want to offend people that already was DJing, but I just think a generation of young kids now there's a lot more people doing it and it's a lot more accessible. And I'm not saying that's got anything to do with me at all. I just think I was on it. I just must have found a bit of a phase thing. But I think the first obstacle was, just proving it could be a job. And obviously, I was at an age where it was like, are you going to go and do an apprenticeship? Are you going to go into full-time work? Are you going to go to college? And I had that dream lingering in the back of my mind. But obviously, I did have to go and get employment until it became a full-time job. And obviously, that led to difficulties in practicing and developing. I didn't drive, so getting to gigs and stuff was obviously I wasn't as available and reliable as other people because I was taxis and lifts and mum and dad. Equipment expensive, I couldn't afford the latest gear at the time. And knowledge as well. Like you can't buy experience, and at the time, if you haven't got the car and you haven't got the reliability and you haven't got the, at the time I didn't have the following or the kind of external look what I guess I maybe have now. Not as many people want to book you, and especially not as many people want to pay you. There's a lot of free exposure tokens getting thrown around. Oh, come do a set for us, and I did my work. I did all that, and it gets to a point where it's like I was at a point, even just probably into my journey, where people might have thought I was killing it, and I'm thinking I'm not getting paid enough for this. Like I'm literally not making a living because it's maybe 50 quid coming in one pocket and going out the other on a taxi and a pair of headphones, or 100 quid here and 100 quid there. Yeah. It wasn't sustainable, John, because it wasn't a proper wage and it wasn't reliable. I wasn't getting it every week. And I think that the main battles I had was believing in the bigger picture. And the problem is, like, the way you've molded this question is like, you asked me about like my inspiration stuff because I didn't really have someone to look to and ask. I didn't know the bigger picture. I was going into the dark, and I guess that brought on, other battles, the anxiety and overthinking and all the rest of it. And it's a massive like risk. I've been speaking to someone recently about going self-employed and taking the plunge, and it's honestly, it's not easy, mate. it's not easy at all. But I think for me, it was just believing in myself. I've always, externally, I'm not the most confident person. Like even getting on a stage and stuff, in really my thing. But internally, sat here in my studio, I'm quite like I believe in what I can do, and I think I've always had that deep down, that drive, and just knowing that it'll come good, and knowing what I'm about, and I think if you know what you're about and what your strengths are, you will pull through. So I've just grin and bear it, mate, and luckily it came good for me.
Yeah, and I love the fact you mentioned about your mum and dad there. Two your biggest supporters. You always see them at your gigs and things. How crucial were they in order for you to break past that first barrier of, like you say, the money that you that was coming in was going straight out onto equipment and things. How crucial was it then to have their support? Because at some point you'll probably thought, well, like you said, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, massively. Just it was everything really, mate, and it still is. Even now, mate, like. The bigger the levels, I guess, you go up, the more I'm realizing how much I rely on him. My dad more for support and encouragement and a bit of a pep talk, and my mum for the things that I can't do as a young man traveling around. Ironing, washing. Mum, I'm in an hotel room. How do I get the creases out my t-shirt? I've got to be on the gig in an hour, and the old putting it in the shower up and heating the shower up, and then your smoke alarm's going off and all the rest of it. And just my mum's just in that sense, but. Even musically, like they've always shown me new music and stuff. But yeah, when I was getting started, it was more like lifts. Even like social media was mad because I think honestly, and this is crazy, my biggest like following are people that know my mum and dad. It sounds mad to say that, but like the people that support me, and the names that you see popping up all the time. It's always like family friends, like people we both probably know from back in the day and around our area, like still popping up and still supporting, and it's like you can't beat that. And I think one day, I'm not like in a position to do it, but I think one day, I think I'll never forget that, and I'll repay that in some way if I could in the community. If it was we both went to the same primary school, so if I could do something with the school, like build a music arm of the college, like the school, like a music academy kind of after school academy or anything like that, I think is in my bigger picture now because of how good the support's been so close to home. Like that's where it's been best,
Yeah. And it has been, and it's quite evident as well on your journey that you are very grateful as well along the way.
Yeah.
You're constantly thanking your mum and dad, and like I say, I know that they're big, huge music fans, in fact. So that it's probably ideal for them as well. Some free gigs and
they love it, man. My mum and dad send me new music all the time. Like you should try this, try that. Some of it's debatable, but some of it'll do.
Definitely. In terms of your circle, and were there any sort of challenges within that? Were there people in your circle? I don't have to go into too much detail or mention names, but were there any sort of challenges within your circle where you thought, right, I have to maybe make my circle a little bit smaller because you're going out into a world where it's very, very sociable, and you'll probably get a lot of people trying to jump on either the bandwagon or just tagging along, wanting free gigs, wanting this, wanting that, like you say, taking. Was there anything you had to do, like revising your circle of influence in order to make sure that you were becoming successful?
Yeah, no, massively. It's a really good question. That I think for me, it's a case of like you said, there is a lot. I'm quite naive, man. I'm too nice for my own good, so I don't really look at it like that. Like I've looked after a lot of people, and you sometimes find when you need them, they're going missing. Especially when you're in a bit of I'm in an industry where anyone that knows you kind of expects a freebie. Get us in here, sneaks in there, gets a drink. And I do try and look after people, but it's more for me, it was kind of like it's more the environment I'm in is very distracting. There's late nights, drinking. Obviously, some people fall victim to even drug abuse and other stuff like that without going too deep into that. But I've always just been focused on I'm here to work and I'm leaving in my car at the end of the night. But like, I've had to cut away from friends, not long term. And it's getting to a point now where they've kind of started to understand why I did it, because you've got to think every weekend I'm in a club, I'm at work. And if I go and party around them hours, not only am I damaging my own mental health and my body, I'm spending my wages because that's the only time I earn my income on a weekend. Obviously, I have diversified my income a lot now and built other branches, which we'll probably talk about. But at the time when I first started DJing, it was like, right, I earn my packet on a weekend. So I've got to go out and smash it, and I can't get distracted and go drinking and partying, or I can't miss my gigs. I can't be late. I've got to drive. So like I had to be sitting like barrel minded on what the job ahead was, and I did miss a lot. And it's even worse sometimes because you stood in the club, and I am having a good time. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but you're watching all your mates crack on with like group of lasses when you're young, and I've kind of missed that period of my life. You know, them big drunk nights with your friends and all that. But and it's paying dividends because I've experienced things that kids my age maybe don't get to experience, and been around the block a bit. Not to again, I hate talking too much about what I've done because I don't like to sound like a brag, but anyone that knows me knows I've been so lucky to get around places where people just don't dream of going, you know. And when you find yourself in them places, that's when you remember the sacrifices and the dedication. And I wouldn't say I've had to cut anyone off personally, like want names and like going at people, but there's definitely, and I think at the time people probably got the thinking, oh, he's falling out with us, and maybe a bit of jealousy comes in because I'm doing one thing and they're doing another. But I think now we're all growing up and everyone's kind of found their feet, and all my mates are smashing it with their jobs. They kind of look back and go, he did the right thing. And people have actually turned around to me and gone, like, fair play for what you've done. Like, you've broke away from like the mold and you've stuck to it. Like I've stayed away from like trouble, you know, drink, drugs, all the rest of it, womanizing, all, you name it. I've always had a stable relationship and kind of family orientated. And I've always had that fear of letting my mum and dad down, which has driven me to stay on that kind of straight and narrow path. And not get reckless. You know, I still have nights out, I still have a laugh, but I call it a blowout every now and again, just because that's what you need. I think in any industry, you need to have the odd night where, even if it's not drinking, just where you let yourself go and you're not worried about DJing and stuff. And that's another hard thing, because people, when you do go out, people have what's the word? Like, they expect you to be DJing. Like, people have this thing like, I can't just go out and have a night out. It's like, you get out, you end up getting hounded. I have to go out of town because everyone's like, oh, why are you not on the decks? I'm like, I'm stood there with my missus having a pint, and it's like, like, how can you not address the situation? I'm on a night out in a quiet bar, and you're coming up to me asking why I'm not DJing.
I get it.
It's a part of the game, bro. I love it in the same respect. You know, it's nice that people identify that.
Yeah, and it's like that comedian who always has to tell a joke when he's out with friends. It's just
the last thing you want to do.
Yeah. In terms of, you mentioned in your relationship, how difficult in this sort of line of work is it to maintain a relationship and build, you know, a really, it seems like, you know, you've got yourself a really meaningful and deep relationship. How hard is the early stages, you know, when you're building trust with somebody, you actually you're building that together?
It's a good question, that, mate. I'll have to watch what I say, because you'll probably watch this. But no, to be honest, mate, my missus is a star, and I think it works for me because I'm a very open book, as you know, on like social media, and I think you can tell from people's personality what kind of people they are. Like, I have got a lot of girlfriends that I see out and about and I speak to, and she knows that, and I think I don't have that in me to be that kind of guy, and I think it's always been apparent. And unfortunately for me, my missus knew me before she got with me, and she was going out and stuff and seeing me and knows what I'm like, and I've never had that about me to be like I've always been good morals, and you know, I've never really been the type to get that reputation to be anything more. So there's never really been that trust. But I think it's funny, innit? Because when you first get with someone and you go out together, and like you don't know the friends with, so she'll be saying hello to a lad or something, and you're thinking, who's he? I've never seen him before. You've got to build that rapport and that trust, I guess, in a sense. But nah, never really been an issue. I think if anything, I always say to her, like, you're lucky that people know me, because I won't be able to get away with nothing anyway. Like, I walked out. It's funny because it's a funny little story, actually. I took my mate's girlfriend home before. That sounds really bad, doesn't it? That's that one sentence. It sounds like the worst thing in the world. But like, he rang me and said, "Oh, my missus is in the club you're in. Like, she's drunk." Or he texted me or something. I said, "Look, tell her I'll give her a lift. She lives around the corner from me." And like, obviously, people see you leaving. I forget, like, you're in the club, you're DJing, people kind of know you are, or they recognize you. And like, you're walking down the steps out, and everyone's out there waiting for the taxis and stuff, and you're getting into your car, and everyone's watching you. And I think it's like, you think to yourself, like, how dodgy does that look to the naked eye? Like, let's thank God that these are all drunk and it's 3 a.m, because it just looks dodgy. But yeah, like I say, mate, it's never really been an issue. I think when you're going away for like a length of time, like I've been to Dubai for a month before, it does become challenging, because naturally anyone that has any form of anxiety or overthinks, you're going to think things that aren't necessarily, because there is a stereotype and a persona. But she's all right, mate. She's she knows she's. I'm not good looking enough to be messing about anyway. I won't be able to get anyone else. I'm lucky to have her.
Well, one word that resonated with me there was being authentic, and that you are very authentic on social media, and in your persona is exactly the same now as it is online. Why is that a really important thing for you to be authentic throughout?
Yeah, that's the most important thing, and it's the hardest thing as well, because I think naturally when you go in front of a camera, or you're put in a not a spotlight. I don't like to say I'm in the spotlight because I don't think I am, but I built a niche where people are interested in what I'm doing on being me. But I think the minute you press record on your camera to do a video or a live stream or talk to the camera or put an Instagram story, you naturally, all of us put this, like, we do this thing, don't we, where it's like, right, I'm looking all right, I grab my phone, right, and then you naturally start like going into a character, and like your shoulders come up.
Yeah.
And I do it still, and I have to like remind myself that's not me. And honestly, the content that I put out that does the best is just me being me. Like last week, I put a video out in my LFC shirt dancing. It was a bit of a sly aim, actually, to try and get LFC on my radar, because I won't mind doing a little video combination with them, like a bit of a partnership kind of thing, whereas maybe I teach one of the lads how to DJ and we record it and stuff. But yeah, like I'm quite clever with stuff like that, but I think that's just me. You know me for years. We're a big LFC family, Hull City, and big rugby league. So why not integrate that into my music? Because next thing you know, I'm putting it online, and all the lads who play for Hull and the coaches, some of the coaches were liking it, and some of the big fans are commenting saying what a lad is, an LFC fan as well, and sharing it. It's just massive amount of exposure. But like, I'm not trying to live a life I'm not living, because there is a lot of people online, as we all know, like this Instagram lifestyle. And if anything, I kind of stay away from it, stay away from social media. You'll notice as well, if I'm not posting about music, my family or my girlfriend, I don't talk about COVID. I don't talk about money. I don't talk about other people's business. I don't knock anyone. I don't get involved in anything else. I think you've really got to be yourself, but focus on what your strengths are. And obviously, that's just worked for me. And that's the biggest bit of advice I could give anyone, John. Like, be yourself. I know it's difficult because I do it. I still do it where, like, I'm going to record a video after this, and it's like, I guarantee the first take, I'll jump into a character that's not me. And I have to switch back into, just drop that accent, because you put that little telephone voice on, don't you, as well? And people buy into the fact that I'm just me, and I'm from Hull, and I'm having a go, and I love it. And it's been the best thing that's happened to me, is like just finding my feet as myself,
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm doing podcasts and not on a camera, because A, I've got a face for radio, and B, I'm not sure if I can get away from that character, if you like. It's a pretty difficult thing to do, and try and be as authentic as possible.
Suit Up Apparel is a new menswear company who provide customers with a compelling range of products that combine looking amazing with comfort. The team at Suit Up Apparel know how testing the day-to-day grind can be, so they have focused their collections around one simple phrase: look great, perform even better. Suit Up are offering new customers 20% off their first order with the code WELCOME20, but don't worry, the Purpose Cycle podcast listeners can get 10% off future orders by using the code PURPOSE at checkout as well. Go on to suitupapparel.co.uk, that's suitupapparel.co.uk, to see the fantastic products on offer, and remember to stay sharp and suit up.
I was going to talk about something else, but I want to sort of dig deeper then into that authenticity and the values and the advice, because you have mentored quite a lot of young aspiring producers and DJs. Taylor Shipley being one of them, quite public on social media. So what brought you to that first? Was that your first sort of mentoring role, or what brought you to that?
Yeah, again, mate, it's a funny story, and it's such an organic story that it just shows the authenticity. And I think it's one of these things as well, whereas if you didn't know me or you didn't know her, you maybe wouldn't believe it, but like, it was just mental. So I was actually, I'm going to do a little name drop here. I was DJing at Luke Campbell's 30th birthday. Obviously everyone knows the boxer, amazing talent from. He's probably my biggest inspiration from Hull, because it's a completely different game, but just what he's achieved and the way he goes about his business is just second to none. So it was his 30th, and it was a Saturday night in Hull, obviously a private venue. And I woke up on the Saturday morning and I thought, I don't actually have any decks anymore, because the problem is when you get to a point where you're playing in the clubs, it's like if you was a ping pong player or a darts player and you're playing 4 or 5 times a week in the venue, you're probably not going to have the set at you. You don't even need a set because you use the clubs. So I thought I don't have them, but because this was a private party, I needed decks. I agreed to take my own decks, and I'm waking up, and obviously I'd had a late one on the Friday, so it was like midday Saturday, and you're groggy, and I'm thinking, what am I doing tonight? Oh yeah, Luke Campbell's party, buzzing. Oh no, I've got no decks. What do I do? So I put a little thing out on social media. As anyone in Hull or East Riding or whatever, like wherever, anyone in my area got decks, and her dad messaged me. Obviously at the time I didn't know the situation. A guy called Steve Shipley messaged me saying, "Hi mate, don't know if you got sorted, but my daughter Taylor is more than willing to lend you her decks. She's never lent them out before, and she never would. But as soon as I told her it was you, she was up for doing it. We're more than up for meeting you. We live near Scunthorpe, so there was like, we can meet you near the bridge." And he had messaged me a couple of times before, just asking questions, and I always reply to people, John. Like literally, like even today, there's like 3 or 4 messages just waiting to get a bit of advice, and I always do my best to reply. It's getting harder and harder, but anyway, I just used to reply, and you don't look too far into an email because you can't vision it. And then he said, "Oh yeah, so we'll meet you on the bridge." So obviously, I said, "Right, let's do 6 o'clock," and the party was at 7. So it was a case of get the decks and go straight there, which is a bit risky because I didn't know what decks there was. I didn't know if they were going to work and how big there was. And anyway, we meet up. I knew what car he had. He gets out the car. Woman gets out the other side of the car, which I thought was his daughter, and obviously it turns out that was his wife. And then the back door opens, and I just see a little pair of legs below the door, and I'm thinking, "What's going on here? Who's this?" And then Taylor just appears, and she's like, at the time I think she must have been 8 or 9, and she was just the most adorable little girl, and she was almost in awe, and I felt real embarrassed because I was like, I don't know how to deal with this, like. And then he's like, we just had a little chat, and I just said, "Look, I've got to be there for 7. I'm so sorry that I could." We were chatting away, mate, for 8. Like, we was good half an hour, and I said, "Look, I've got to get to the venue. I'm so sorry." And he said, "Oh, can we get a little photo?" Of course we can. So we get to the photos with a set of decks. My head was blown, and I was like, "This is insane." And that was when I first knew, like, met her, and it was like, I didn't think anything much. I just thought I'll do what I can to help this girl.
Mm.
I literally posted the photo and like sat in my car in the car park and just put, "Thank you so much, 9-year-old DJ Taylor Shipley agreed to lend me a decks. What an amazing young girl. She's one for the future." I kind of basically told the story of what I've just told you about needing a pair of decks. She came to the rescue, and obviously I went straight to Luke Campbell's party. I'm buzzing. I was a bit nervous about that because I'm a big fan of Luke's. Obviously I don't know him really well. I'm not going to claim I'm his best friend, but obviously I've worked with him and I've met him a few times, had a beer and stuff. Really, really nice guy, and just forgot all about it. You know, when you're having a good time, you're not on your phone. I wasn't on social media. I got home at about midnight because it was like a normal 7 till 12 kind of party. Got home at midnight, chicken nuggets on the way home, as you do, good diet life. Sat on my settee and my phone just went boom. And I was like, "What's going on?" The photo just gone viral, mate. Like, not viral like worldwide, but I'm talking like there was thousands of people sharing it and liking it, and their following went from that to that. And that was just the start of just the most insane journey to this date, which is just, that was the most organic start to a relationship and a friendship. And what people don't understand about it is I'm now like good friends with her mum and dad. My girlfriend is friends with her mum. You know, my dad and mum and dad are friends with her mum and dad. Our families we've been out together. Like I know her grandma and granddad. I know her cousins. I know her little friends that are the same age as her. We've just become family friends, if that makes sense. And it just so happens that obviously she's DJ and I'm DJ, so we've built like a brother sister kind of like mentorship thing. And there's nothing involved more than just we have each other's numbers, and we send voice notes to each other. Dad will message me, I'll message him. Like, there's no agreement, there's no plan, there's no money, there's nothing involved except just true belief in what she can be. And just more than anything, as you know yourself as a teacher, it's the safeguarding aspect of it to me, John. Like, you know, I've experienced, not that there is a massive dark side, I don't want to put anyone off, but every industry's got a dark side. I don't care what you say, whether it's, in it, I don't want to go into detail, but every industry's got dark holes, and there's certain individuals and types of people in any industry what you have got to be careful with. And my aim when I'm working with younger people is just keeping them away from not the individual that could damage them, but like situations, because especially music, it's a very quick, fast industry, and if you get it wrong, you can get criticized. So you have got to stick to that, not the routine, but you have got to keep yourself on the straight and narrow. And I just try and help. And I've always said to her dad, I said, if she doesn't enjoy it, don't let her do it. And there's a few other kids since then that I've started working with. And I've always just said the same thing, is like, it's all about enjoyment. And if you're not enjoying it at that age, because I don't want people to dedicate too much, yourself with football. Like, a lot of lads, probably your brother as well, like, you dedicate your life to it up to being like 18, 19. You don't go out with your mates as a teenager to parties because you've got a game on the Sunday. And I was the same. So think about it from my angle. I dedicated up to football to 16, 17. I wasn't going out on a weekend because of football. And then all of a sudden it was like, right, DJing. Again, I'm going out on a weekend, but I can't drink. So I've always had, people don't understand how dedicated you have to be. And you can drink and stuff, and you can do the parties, but it won't last long and you won't go far, because people blackmark you if you're a drinker, and if you're a liability, especially in the music industry, mate, you get blacklisted. So you've got to be so focused in such a temptatious environment. So I just try and help people, mate, and that's all I can do,
Yeah, and it is quite I can imagine it's really, really difficult to maintain really good physical health in this line of work, with, like you say, the alcohol, the chicken nuggets on the way home, that sort of thing. How do you have any particular like habits or routines that enable you to make sure you're at optimal sort of performance every time you go to a gig?
Yeah, mate, 100%. This is one of the things that not a lot of people speak about. And it's like you say, for me, the drink's not a massive issue. You throw that into the ring with everything else, and it would be an issue, because it has been in the past. But for me, it's the late night eating. Like I just said, what can you eat at 3 a.m. except McDonald's or a takeaway? You're not going to be sat there with a bowl, a Tupperware of chicken and rice, are you? I've tried that, and it's just hard. So the food side of things is bad. Your Red Bulls, and I'm really bad for like energy drinks and stimulants. All like above board stimulants. It's all like just drinking Red Bulls or Monster Energies or frozen lattes, and obviously then it's the timings of the late nights, and it's something I do have a lot of practices what do work, but the consistency is the hardest bit for me. It's like a lot of the time what I try and do is say, for example, an average week of a DJ like me up north before lockdown would be, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you'll work 11 till 3. And obviously a lot of the time you're in Leeds. So sometimes you're not getting in bed till 4:30, 5, and you're not getting to bed till 6. So it's kind of like doing a night shift. So you're not going to get up till dinner time, 1 o'clock. But the best thing you can do is go out for a run, or even just a walk, or get straight in the gym. And I was doing that at one point, and I honestly, I didn't have no problems. Eat as clean as you can through the day. So by the time you are having the Red Bull and the shit food, you can kind of balance it out with the healthy meals that you've maybe had in the day. Doesn't always work, but it definitely gives you a head start. And then another thing, what used to really get me into a good place, but obviously we haven't done it for so long because of lockdown, was I used to on a Sunday, it was a phone off, in bed for a certain time and reset. And the thing is, if I didn't do that on a Sunday, I'd be up till 4 a.m. Monday morning, because my body clock was telling me that it was the normal time to go to bed, because I was on the other days. And then next thing you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is a battle to get back into a good routine. Before you know it, you're back to the clubs, and you're that 10% groggier. So by 9 weeks, you're actually burnt out, and then I would suffer badly. And that's when your whole anxiety and stuff come on. So don't get me wrong, mate, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I've got it locked off, but there's definitely practices I know and I have done in the past what have kept me going. But I think luckily the way the world's changing now, I don't think I'd probably go back to burning myself out 4 nights a week, because I've built other things up which we'll probably go into. But yeah, just do you've got to compensate, in any industry. Like if you're working late nights and you're eating crap on the night, in the daytime you've got to keep it clean. You can't be drinking coffee all day and then doing it on Red Bull on the night, because I've done that, and believe me, it's not good for your heart, and it's not good for up here either. Really not too much caffeine's dangerous.
Yeah, and you're right. We do want to sort of delve into that mental side of things as well, because it is so tightly linked. I did have it as like two separate things, but it is intertwined. When you do burn the candle at both ends, and what you eat and what you put into your body does affect your mind as well. So in terms of your sort of how you mentally manage multiple projects at the same time, because you're not just a DJ, you make your own music as well. You obviously you've film weddings, you do lots of different projects. So how do you make sure that you manage that stress and that time to make sure you maintain productivity?
Good question. I wish I knew the answer. No, you know what? It's. I think at first I never had any kind of control on it, and I've just gradually got. I think if I'm going to be honest, like going into a lockdown, if you don't mind me saying, talking about the lockdown, is like it's almost been a blessing to me because it's given me. I've been able to reevaluate everything and kind of put everything in a line. And the DJing was with the weddings and the music production was a difficult balance, but it's hard to explain. It's like sleep wise, I was constantly deprived. Health and fitness neglected. Emotional intelligence and being aware of my own feelings, and I wasn't journaling, I wasn't doing any gratitude training or anything. But all I can say is, John, when you love what you do, it honestly doesn't matter how tired, how deprived, how much weight you're putting on because you're eating shit. The anxiety and stuff. You have these points in it. For example, I'll give you 3 examples. Saturday night, you're knackered. You don't really want to go and DJ, but then you walk into a venue and there's 1,500 people there screaming off the top of the roof. You walk out and it's just like you've done a workout. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like you've done that workout. That is my workout. So straight away you're coming away thinking, boom, that's why I've done it. But then you wake up the next day and that feeling's gone. So then you've got to find that feeling again, and it's like, right, I'll go in the studio today, and then you make a track, yeah, and it's going to be big. So straight away you're excited. You've ticked another box, and then in between that comes all the anxieties and the stress and the management. But then you've edited a wedding video for someone because, like you say, I film weddings. So then I edit a wedding video, deliver it to the client. I get the response from them, and then again, it's all worth it. It's all like when you love what you do, and I'm in a job where luckily you get feedback a lot. The wedding videos you're constantly getting. It's a very positive industry in a sense because you can please people on a Saturday night, you can please people with your music all 24/7, and you can please people with a wedding video. So I never had the balance right, but I've always had job satisfaction was like 1,000. So that was what was keeping me going. But then coming into lockdown, I've kind of obviously the DJing's just gone. Like obviously I'm doing the live streams, but my routine's got so much better. My fitness routine, my mindset, everything I said I wasn't doing, I'm doing. So all of a sudden I've got this right, and all these other things are just falling into place. Obviously the DJing's gone, but to be honest, I think the way I'll come back as a DJ, I won't be doing 4 nights a week. I'll be picking and choosing because I've built other revenue streams up through lockdown, which are, very good and very sustainable and very happy for my lifestyle, and still music based. I'll talk about that later on. They're still music based, but it's made me focus on my mental well-being so much better. And I don't think you realize how much you're neglecting it until you're forced to stop. All this materialism and stuff disappeared, and the core fundamentals of life became became everything. Family, fitness, happiness. You can't go on holiday. You can't cover up. You can't cover up anxiety and depression with a holiday anymore or a new car because no one's going to see it. No one cares if you've got a Gucci hoodie on anymore. What matters is getting fit, getting healthy, and speak and making connections with your family. Or a lot of people starting a new hobby, and that's one of the things that's helped me.
Well, an incredible part 1 there. If you are ready for part 2, please click on the next episode, and I will see you there. Watch me not stop, though. Stand